Welcome to the GCSE tutorial for GCSE Biology. This tutorial is for topic B7 Ecology and will cover decomposition and biodiversity. Starting off with, what is decomposition? Well, this is the breakdown of living things or waste by decomposers. And these can be bacteria and fungi, which are microbes, or small animals like worms, which are called detritivores. And when they break things down, they return the organic material back into the earth. And that's why things like compost can help make new things grow. Decay happens best when it's warmer, when there's more water, and when there's oxygen. Also, if there's more decomposers, so if there's more bacteria, then they'll decay at a faster rate. Anaerobic decay is useful. So anaerobic decay is when there's no oxygen, and you can use this to produce methane or other biogases, and that can be then used as a fuel. So this is made from animal waste, mainly manure from cattle. And then this gas that is made comes from decomposers which break down the manure. The gas is stored at a high pressure and used for heating and cooking. There's two types: batch generators, which are used like in the diagram here to maybe heat on a small scale, make biogas in small batches, or continuous generators, which would be larger and would make a bigger supply of biogas. You'll also need to know about a practical way you would investigate decay. This practical is about how temperature affects the rate of decay. You could look at the action of the enzyme lipase on milk. When lipase breaks down milk, the pH decreases, so it becomes more acidic, which is why milk goes off and tastes sour. You'd measure out a sample of lipase and then a sample of milk into two separate test tubes, about 5 centimetres of each. Then you would add a few drops of phenolphthalein to the milk, and then you add some sodium carbonate and it will make it go alkaline. Now then, at that point it will turn pink because the indicator goes pink when things are alkaline. Now when it becomes less alkaline, it will lose the pink colour and become colourless. You'll then put this test tube and the test tube of the lipase into a water bath and warm it to 35 degrees. Then you would add the lipase solution and start the stopwatch. And then when you no longer see the pink colour, you stop the stopwatch, and that's how long it's taken to break down the milk. And then you will repeat it at different temperatures to see how temperature affects the rate of decay. Remember, we've looked at rates before. The rate equals 1,000 divided by time. If you pause the tutorial now and try and attempt these 3 questions. So, what conditions do microorganisms prefer? Water, warmth and oxygen. So moisture, heat and oxygen. What is biogas? Biogas, like methane, is made from microorganisms that decay waste material. It's done anaerobically, so without oxygen. What happens to the rate of decay when temperature is decreased? Well, when the temperature is lower, the rate of decay will be lower as well, which is why things don't go off as quick when you put them in a fridge, because the temperature is lower. Or they don't go off if you put them in a freezer, because at that point the decomposers cannot function. Moving on to biodiversity. So what does that word mean? Well, it means, the word bio means living, and diverse is all the different species of organisms that there are. So biodiversity means all the different species of living things living together within an ecosystem. And it's really important we maintain or keep biodiversity. And that's due to that word interdependence, because remember, if one organism is affected, it can have a big impact on other organisms within an ecosystem. So we have to keep them stable. But there's a problem. The human population is bigger than ever. It's increasing all the time because of life expectancy is increased. But with that comes more human activity. And the two main issues of human activity that can impact biodiversity are global warming and deforestation. Let's look at them in a bit more detail. So, global warming. This is something that you will need to know about, but you also need to explain what it is. So, global warming is caused by greenhouse gases. So, greenhouse gases are things like carbon dioxide, methane, water vapour, nitrous oxides. The main gases are carbon dioxide and methane. because they're the ones caused by human impact. These gases are formed when you burn fossil fuels and cattle farming, things like that, but mainly burning fossil fuels. And normally these gases form a layer outside the Earth's atmosphere in space. And they're a good layer. What they do is normally when the sun's heat comes in, they re-radiate the heat back into the Earth, and that keeps the Earth at a nice temperature for life. Now the problem that's happening over the years is those greenhouse gases has increased, mainly carbon dioxide, because we're burning more fossil fuels, so we're making more carbon dioxide. And that layer of gases, those greenhouse gases, is getting thicker. And when it gets thicker, it re-radiates even more heat back into Earth, and it warms up Earth even more. And that's called global warming. Now that doesn't mean that it's just going to be, a bit warmer in certain areas. It can have, and it is having, such huge impacts on the world. Sea levels are rising because ice caps are melting. There's large areas of flooding. Animals are losing huge amounts of habitats. There's changes in the way the migration patterns because of seasonal changes. It's affecting the climate. There's less biodiversity, and there's a lot of threat of extinction of different species. These graphs here show the temperature of the Earth changing over the years, and they also show with that the amount of carbon dioxide that's changed as well. And you can see that the amount of carbon dioxide has significantly increased in the last 50 years. Deforestation is destroying large areas of land and removing trees and forests. You can see here the changes in the rainforest removal and forest removal over the years. Now, why is that a problem? Well, we need to create more space for buildings, for farming, and because there's more people, and to get rid of waste. But there is problems with deforestation. Firstly, we need the plants and the trees to take in carbon dioxide during photosynthesis. But if you chop the trees down, then it will reduce the amount of carbon dioxide that's taken in. So you're going to end up with more carbon dioxide in the air. It will also increase the amount of carbon dioxide release when you burn the trees. Often the trees are burnt to create land and clear areas, and that will increase global warming. And thirdly, it destroys habitats and reduces that important word, biodiversity. There's other waste as well that humans have caused. Sulfur dioxide from power stations and cars can cause acid rain. Land pollution from toxic waste like herbicides and chemicals that farmers use. Nuclear waste is often buried underground. Landfill sites that are full of materials that can't be recycled. Sewage and toxic waste being washed into rivers and lakes. And plastic waste as well, which again won't decompose. So what can we do about this? Well, this is called maintaining biodiversity, which means keeping things the same. Keeping biodiversity, keeping those animals and plants the same as they are now. There's a number of ways that we can do that. One is captive breeding programs. So that prevents extinction and supports endangered animals. So it takes place in zoos and other captive breeding areas where animals are bred and then sometimes released back into the wild. Habitat protection, that's when areas may be preserved or regenerated. For example, coral reefs are preserved and there's certain areas you can't visit, or reintroduction of hedgerows to bring back wild flowers into farmlands. Reducing waste by recycling, introducing more renewable fuels, so we're burning less fossil fuels, less deforestation, and deforestation programs where, for example, if trees are chopped down, more trees are planted. So that's called reforestation. Educational programs, for example, teaching this in schools and in zoos and conservation programs. But there can be issues with maintaining biodiversity. It is costly to governments to impact these actions, and it can affect local economy. For example, some of the things that we've mentioned before, like deforestation, that brings jobs to an area and food security. So it's about balancing that out and making sure that we're still maintaining biodiversity. So It's a 6-mark question now. If you pause the tutorial and give yourself 10 minutes to answer this question, describe how human activity has impacted levels of carbon dioxide. Okay, so you can split this answer into 3 things. You just need to be talking about carbon dioxide. So one would be deforestation. By chopping down trees, there is going to be more carbon dioxide in the air because the trees are not taking it in during photosynthesis, and also the trees are being burnt, and that releases carbon dioxide. Secondly, burning fossil fuels, so oil, coal and gas. When we burn them, they release carbon dioxide into the air, which is a greenhouse gas, which can cause global warming. Remember what global warming is? It's when the greenhouse gases trap the sun's heat and re-radiate it back into the earth, making the earth get warmer. And finally, decomposition. So when things break down and die, decomposers that break them down release carbon dioxide when they respire. So the more things that are breaking down, the more respiration there is, the more carbon dioxide is being released. So in summary, we've looked at decay and decomposition, biodiversity, global warming, deforestation and other waste as well. The practical we've looked at is investigating decay. Thank you.